right, let's go ahead and get ourselves into sequence here a little bit and see what we can make out of all of this. Alrighty. So, good afternoon, good morning, good evening. This is DSP News, the unreliable ones. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the newsroom and welcome to the Goutopia News Network, your unreliable source for DSP News. This is the Snort Report brought to you by SnortBucks Coffee Company. Best beverage company ever. Here we go. Kind of just noticed that uptick at the end of that particular part of that intro. It's kind of funny because I don't actually mean to speak like that, but whatever. Okay, so ladies and gentlemen, we're going to talk about DSP nickeling and diming his viewers back in the day for with unboxing videos, which is one of the many. See, maybe if it was a better person, we would look back at some of the things DSP did as innovative, but they're not, because he just did what other people were doing. He was just a lot louder about it, and he would just try to swamp the system and put more out than other people. It doesn't make it good. So, you know what I'm saying? If someone's giving you, like, you know what I'm saying, fucking multiple videos a day and shit, and it's all slop, at the end of the day, it's still slop. So, you know what I'm saying? There's nothing good about it. In any case, which also applies to DSP now that I think about it. In any case, let's go ahead and transition over. You know what I'm saying? Let's jump over to my favorite segment, and hopefully some of y'all's favorite segment as well, ladies and gentlemen, as we talk about this nonsense. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to my TED Talk. So, DSP, oh boy, DSP nickeling and diming his viewers back in the day with unboxing videos, as well as, truth be told, him ripping off in a lot of ways, but given how GameStop's early system was, I guess it is what it is. He was just playing within the system. But the way DSP was scamming, or maybe even ripping off GameStop or some of the other game stores he was going to at that time, it's kind of interesting too, because you're going ahead and you're ordering these you're buying these game collections, right? Then you're going to breeze through the game in 2 or 3 days, and then you're going to just go ahead and take the disc back, and that's it. You know what I'm saying? And I get it. You're like, well, he paid for the collection, you know what I'm saying? So on and so forth. But most of that stuff he ended up throwing away. He didn't even keep a lot of those things. You know what I'm saying? And that's why he thought he could go ahead and recycle it by doing giveaways or whatever. And that became a complete and utter fucking farce in itself. You could give him credit for making an attempt, but truth be told, he was just passing his trash off to someone else under the pretense that it was actually treasure. It was, I don't know, it's all scummy. Like anything else, it's all scummy. If you're someone who was around at that time and you may have even been a viewer or a fan of DSP, you may be looking at it with rose tint glasses, or maybe you saw it that way back in those days, maybe. But looking back at it in hindsight, I don't think it holds up. But you could say that for most things, to be honest with you. In any case, let's go ahead and see what we have here. We'll cut it up. We'll cut it up proper, as we should. Thank you for coming to my TED Talk. And let's see what we got. Okay, so let's go with a coffee shop addict. It's a feel-good type situation, ladies and gentlemen. A feel-good type situation. Now let's see if we can find our video. It's this one here. Okay, I think so. Now for proper introductions, ladies and gentlemen, let's see. Big ups to Raw Phil as well as Diggs. This is, how do we have this labeled? Darksydephil speaks on nickeling and diming his viewers with unboxing videos back in the day. This is from July 21st of 2025, our current year of the snake. Oh man, hearing him trying to justify his how generous he was with stuff back in the day always comes across as awkward. You know what I'm saying? There's no real feeling behind it. It's very mechanical. You know what I'm saying? It's very emotionless, to be honest with you. There's not a lot of emotion to it, let's say it that way. Not a lot of emotion to it. It's like him just kind of going through the motions. And he was expecting to get all of this glory and praise from it, when in actuality there was no real valid, no, there was no real good intent in it. he was doing it served the purpose by doing so. He didn't really care about those people. He didn't even really give a shit about the stuff he was giving up. As long as it could get him from one place to another, that's all it was. So he doesn't have any genuine emotions or sentimental value, not with those games, not with those items, and not even with those people who he gave it to, these true fans of his, in air quotes, if you will, which only feeds back into my narrative that he's a poser. He's always been a poser. And the only reason why he has such a connection to Street Fighter, Super Street Fighter 2 Turbo, is because it's probably one of the few things he believes he was actually good at. You know what I'm saying? And honestly, if he was actually good in if he was good at Marvel 2, if he was good at CVS 2, if he was good at Tekken, if he was good at any of those other fighting games back in the day, Mortal Kombat, if he was really good at it and he got even a lick of recognition, it would be no different. It would be the same copy paste type shit that you hear with Super Turbo. That's my thoughts. But you know, it is what it is. And on top of the fact that he believes through gaming, because gaming is incredibly widespread, everybody's gamed in some type of way, shape, or form. It gives him relatability, and it doesn't. It really don't. It just makes him come across as more and more of a fraud. He don't see it because there's no. How could he recognize that if he believes it? Something about. Thank you for coming to my extended TED Talk. And let's go ahead and get into the video proper. All right. Like I said, big ups to Raw Phil, big ups to Diggs. Here we go.
Light says he works at GameStop. His boss is a bigger nerd than they. Well, that's interesting. Modern GameStop ain't what it used to be. When I first started as a YouTuber.
I mean, that would be kind of weird that you're working at a GameStop and you don't like games. That would be a bit off tilter. And I've seen that. I'm sure all of you have walked into a GameStop and you've seen somebody in there who's probably already in a manager position and trying to treat this like any type of corporate job. And to an extent, it can work, but when they actually have to deal with customers, you can see the disconnect. You can always see the disconnect. It's so easy to point that shit out. It's hilarious.
GameStop was all about the games. I mean, they did have a few other things, but 99% of the store was games and accessories, and that was their major focus. And it was good because you go in there, you get whatever game you wanted, whatever console you wanted. Now, I think they realized they just couldn't hang anymore with a market where everything's online, everything's digital. So now you go in there, it's a junk store, right? Like, it's a bunch of collectibles and stuff. Like, what am I doing here? It's very weird. A very weird feeling.
I mean, when they started, like, when you could buy like a cell phone or a tablet from there, and some of that other shit, where they try to basically turn it into like they essentially kind of try to become an EB Games. Actually, I guess for those of you who can remember one of those, I mean, keep in mind, like, I was super, super fucking young the first time I walked into one of those things too. But now that I think about it, but that's kind of what GameStop kind of does now, except for, you know, they got, you know, you can go in there and find all kinds of merch and shit in there too, like shirts and all that other stuff, depending on where you're at. But yeah, I would say they kind of tried to become EB Games and kind of failed at it miserably, to be honest. Yeah. I guess that's one way of describing it. I guess it depends on where you're at and which one you've ever walked into.
Especially for someone like me who used to go to GameStop weekly to buy all the games for my YouTube videos. Let's see here. Spawn Killer asked, do I miss doing things like Ask the King and other old projects? Well, here's the thing.
No, because he can't profit off of it. He's going to tell you that, well, we talk all the time anyway through my podcast, the Daily Therapy Session, the Bottom Bitch Podcast. He says that we already talk, you know, you guys can ask all your questions there, so it doesn't really matter. You know what I'm saying? It doesn't, you know, I already answer all those questions anyway, there's no need to do so. The reality is he doesn't have another way of being able to nickel and dime you. That's really what it comes down to. But another thing that he won't tell you that a lot of detractors in recent years have become more astute to is that he's messing up his stories. His stories aren't exactly lining up to something that he said a few years ago. That mental deterioration in some ways, or deterioration, is starting to kind of catch up to him. He's not remembering the stories the way he told them. And that could be either A, he was genuinely telling the truth in those stories and he just can't remember, or he's lying and he can't cover it. So I think that's another reason why he doesn't really want to go into that. On top of that, detractors now have more accessibility to them. So it don't take much for a troll question to come through that pokes a hole in that story, and then he's got to figure out how to plug it, and he's got to figure out how to do it fast. You know what I mean? So I would say it's a combination of profitability, um, and then he just can't remember the lies, or he can't keep his own story straight, or he can't remember it. So that's my thoughts. And then, like I said, the fact that some of those old Ask the Kings are coming up missing, like, you know what I'm saying? Like, they're just being wiped out of the ether and shit, or parts of them, if you will, if not the whole show itself. That's problematic. That's an issue. So he has to explain something about that too.
I liked doing certain things, but the things are they wouldn't be viable anymore.
Viable meaning profitable.
Because it's just not possible to do those things. They don't make sense. I'll give you a couple examples. Let me combine my torches. There we go.
He really can't do two things at once. I'm trying to tell y'all. He really can't do two things at once. That's why he can't do commentary over his own fighting game, playthroughs. Or not playthroughs, over his own fighting game matches. Like, you know how, like, Justin can break his own shit down, Mac can break his own shit down, Smug can break his own shit down, Chris G can break his own shit down, Punk can break his own shit down. Like, anybody who's in the FGC can break down their matches as they're competing in it. DSP can't. He literally can't talk. He can bitch and complain and lose at the same time. But if he's doing well, or if he's in a tense situation, he can't actually explain to you what the situation is and what's going through his head. He can't even predict what his opponents are going to do, which is the main reason why DSP won't go back and commentate over his old matches after the fact. Where, like, doing like a breakdown vid. Like, hey, break down this match to me when you played against this person. Tell me what you're thinking. He can't. Because he relies completely on reactions and reflexes. He doesn't know what he wasn't thinking anything. He was literally on autopilot. So if you were like, well, what did you think this opponent was going to do? What did you think the opponent was going to do in this particular situation? He's either going to tell you something he's either just going to give you an answer, because we're good for that, or he's going to say something that doesn't make sense, which only makes his own movements and or judgments look weird or bad. And I think that's the reason why he's scared to do it.
So here's a perfect example. One of the things I absolutely loved doing was going to GameStop in the morning, grabbing the hot new releases, coming home and doing my show, which I called Release Day Unboxing. Who remembers Release Day Unboxing? Man, it's been a long time since I did one of those, folks. So, Release Day Unboxing. All right. The idea behind it was that on release day of a hot new game, I would come home and unbox that game. I would talk about what I know about that game. I would open it up, show you the manual on the inside, show you what the disc looked like. I would read the box. Some of the games...
That wasn't even an original idea. There's people doing that before him. Now that I think about it, you know how when... it's funny how this always happens. Usually when a anniversary edition of a fighting game comes out, typically a Capcom game, you know how Max usually does like a video, or he'll do it on stream and he'll break down into a video, where he talks about his history with the game. He gives you the history of the game, and then you guys get into it, right? I'm not sure if you guys have noticed, but over the last few years, DSP has tried to do that as well. And if you listen to Max, and then you listen to DSP, you can tell DSP don't know what the fuck you're talking about. He tries to pass off his experiences as this is what the gaming market was like. This is what was going on at Capcom at the time. This is what was going on in the arcade scene, this, that, and the third. But if you really listen to what he's saying, it couldn't have worked out that way. It's just not possible. In some situations, it's very clear that's not what it was. He wasn't, let's break it down even further. DSP is not as tapped in as he thinks he is. He's out of this little hole in the wall spot in Connecticut. How the fuck is he going to tell you what was going on at like Chinatown Fair at that time? How is he going to tell you what any of the devs who were cool with people in the FGC because they came up out of the FGC themselves, how is he going to tell you what Seth Killian was thinking and saying about a game at a particular time? He can't, because he never had no connections with none of those cats. You see what I'm saying? Whereas somebody like Max actually did. So anyway, DSP would try to emulate what Max was doing and pass it off as his own, and try to use his own experiences as validation, despite the fact that he didn't have any experiences because he wasn't there for any of it, or he didn't have access or connection to any of those people to make it happen. It's kind of wild. So here's my point. everything that you see DSP do is just a cheap copy, and or imitation of something else that someone else did actually successfully. You know what I mean? That's what it is. It's just a Temu copy, if you will, or whatever the fuck that fucking Review Tech USA likes to talk about people and all that bullshit. It was just it's low grade. You know what I'm saying? It's a terrible facsimile, if you will. It's like that. It's really weird, to be honest with you, that he would even bother doing so. But I guess if content is content, right? Then do what you can.
Back in the day, you know, you're talking 10, 15 years ago, they came with all these materials. Sometimes there'd be an ad for another similar game from the same company. Sometimes there'd be promotional materials inside, coupons for other things. And that was fun to explore that content and share it with my audience and show everyone, you know, what was going on with a new game.
Going back to what I said about content is content. You talking about a coupon that was in a game, you consider that as, you consider that as content. He considers advertising as content. But that in itself, ladies and gentlemen, should actually speak to some of you in how DSP does what he does. DSP doesn't look at gaming as gaming. He looks at it as advertising for himself. He's trying to sell himself, not necessarily the game or his experiences with the playthrough, right? He's just trying to sell himself. He's trying to get people to like him. And that's why the content is garbage. Because it's not really about the game. It's just about him.
That video, release day unboxing, I would then upload immediately. And as it was uploading, I would then go start playing the game. So people basically got like a little teaser. Ooh, Phil's going to play this new game today. Let's see what the box looks like and everything. And they got all excited. They knew later that day, new videos of a hot new game were going to be coming out on DSP Gaming.
Even though universally, most people just ignored that and just waited for the playthrough. So he put out fluff thinking that, you know, that's basically what it is. It was fluff. He's basically putting out fluff thinking that's meant to entice people. And it probably enticed some. But in actuality, probably the majority of people just ignored that and then just went on to watch the first couple parts and then they just dropped off altogether.
So it worked perfectly, right? But sadly, release day unboxing just doesn't really exist anymore. Why? How could it? When you go buy a game now and you open the box, what's in it? Nothing. No instruction manual, no promotional materials, no art. Half the time, there's not even a game. Sometimes it's just a piece of paper with a code on it. The boxes are bare bones. They barely even explain what the game is. There's no more promotional stuff in the box. So a release day unboxing would be completely and utterly worthless.
I mean, keep in mind, though, like places like GameStop, truth be told, has to eat the blunt of that. Not because they're part of the resale market, because that's what it is. Like, you know what I'm saying? GameStop is just part of the resale market, which is kind of problematic in a way that maybe mom and pop shops weren't. In that, you know, they're doing it on more of I want to say on an industry level, but a more corporized level, a more concise level, if you will, and they were far more widespread. And keep in mind, if you bought a brand new game from them, you played it, you brought it back, you get store credit or you get half your money or whatever the situation is, then they can just take that and they can double dip and just go ahead and sell it again. The game publishers and manufacturers don't get anything out of that. You know, the publishers and developers don't get anything out of that, right? Which is the reason why back with the Xbox One, Microsoft was thinking about going straight to digital so they could just cut them out the market. Cut GameStop out the market altogether. But let's also be honest, though, too. There's a lot of shady-ass stories that came out of GameStop back in those days. For one, especially, let's go with Xbox, because that was easy. For those of you who may remember, I barely do. So, I barely remember. And when I was really young when this was going on. But, like, if you think about the fact that, like, you could buy an Xbox game and you had a 3-day, like, Xbox Game Pass code, you know, like the little green, like, insert kind of card thing. PlayStation used to do that too, or Sony used to do it as well. You could get like you could find a 1-day, a 3-day, or a week, right? And that was just something that was in there. Well, there was a time where, for however it happened, GameStop employees were instructed to take those things out. Excuse me, to take out some of those inserts and other inserts as well. And then they just kind of passed you the game and that was it. Most of the time, and this is really fucked up, at certain GameStops, people were going in there to buy new games. And come to find out, their game wasn't actually new. It was used because a bunch of the employees got the game like a week early. They were playing it, and then they brought it back. They had a machine that would go ahead and clamp it back together, or at least some of them did. Had a machine where they could they could rewrap it or whatever, and then boom, they pass it off to you, a game that's already been compromised. On top of that, during the pre-order situation, if any of you guys have been to a GameStop recently, I think it changes from GameStop to GameStop. But most GameStops, if you put in a pre-order for something and the game releases, they only hold on to your game for like 48 hours. Well, back in the day, they could hold your game for as long as, until you came and got it, right? But these days, they only do it for like 48 hours. Well, the fucked up part was you had people who were putting in, not only then, but now, you had people who were putting in pre-orders for games, paid money on it, go to get it, and, oh, sorry, man, we already gave your game already got picked up. Or, you sure you didn't send your brother or your girlfriend out here to get it, man? Sorry, man, we don't have it. Come to find out, the employees were basically just snatching people's pre-orders and just bouncing with it. That was a big thing online for the longest time. You go through old Reddit threads, you might be able to still find some of that shit. On GameFAQs, too. I think they spoke about it a few times as well. But there's stuff like that. I'm not putting that completely on GameStop because you can't really put it completely on them. You really put it on the people, the employees, if you will. But there is so much shifty-ass stuff that was going on that the industry was trying to mitigate that shit. That's kind of the reason why GameStop's on that shit that it is now. You know what I'm saying? If they had actually, like, taken care of their business in some of those early years, you know what I'm saying, they would still be able to thrive. Instead, like he says, I got to give him this. You got all this different merch, you got all these different collectibles, you got all this, you got all this other stuff that's kind of floating around in there. Large statues and figurines and all that stuff, and it's kind of like, you know what I'm saying, what the hell am I even doing? You know what I mean? It's such a hassle. And then, and most of the people who are working in GameStop now, don't even really give a shit about games. You know what I'm saying? So you can't even go in there and really talk shop anymore. I remember going into GameStop with my older siblings, and they could have a conversation behind the fucking desk or whatever. Not desk, the counter. They could have a conversation with those guys about Madden, fucking 2K, about, you know what I'm saying, any fighting game or first-person shooter of choice. Now, man, those people just want to get you in and get out because they don't give a fuck about games. A job's a job for them. So, you know what I'm saying, it's kind of lost its luster. And you could say that's an overall problem with the gaming industry as a whole. It's become more corporatized, if you will, industrialized, if you will, and whatnot, to where it's not about passion anymore, to use one of DSP's quotes, which is actually a PPP quote, but it's about profits. That's what it comes down to. And in a lot of ways, DSP was a front runner for that shit. Someone that comes in, plays the games and whatnot as quickly as possible, throws it online for profit, brings the fucking game back, and is on to do the next one. He's part of that machine. He may have been an early archetype for it. In some ways. Something to think about.
Let me put it this way. There were days I would go to GameStop and buy 4 games. I would do release day unboxing. That video would go live. I would go play, and when I came to upload, release day unboxing would have like 50,000 views. That made enough money to pay for all of the games. I didn't even have to make a video of the playthrough yet.
Now, if that's true, then he's lying about how DSP tries it works. Let me give you context in the case of particulars. DSP said that he, when he used to do DSP tries back in the day, you know what I'm saying? He would go out, get the food or whatever, Subway, Burger King, whatever, come back, eat it, post it online, and then he would move on with his day. And he said that most of those videos wouldn't even cover the cost of whatever he purchased, right? In another story, he said that he would do those DSP tries and they made him crazy money and whatnot. But the point that I'm trying to make is, if some of those DSP tries were making anywhere between 25, let's say, hypothetically, let's say between 25 and 45,000 views, right? And he said that, oh, well, it barely even covered the food sometimes, just it wasn't really a thing, whatever. But he's saying right here that, hey, he could do an unboxing video that got 50,000 views and it could cover the cost of 4 games, which games are what, $50 back in those days and whatnot. Then we got a bit of a disconnect. Even if, let's say it was only half that. Work with me on this. Let's say it was only half that, those views. Let's say it's only 10, 15, 20,000. He's still lying. Now, why is this important? DSP has tried to pass off those old DSP tries as most of them weren't profitable, if not a lot of them weren't profitable. Well, think about when he moved from Connecticut to Washington. And he said, and remember how he was doing DSP tries that with Panda for a while, then he stopped. And then when Cat got there, he said that, people were asking if he would do some more. He said they're not really profitable. That's why he doesn't do it. It covered the cost of the meal, so on and so forth, yada, yada, yada. If what he's saying right here is true, then what he said during the transition from Panda to Cat was a complete and utter lie. And most people wouldn't remember it because that's some of that useless fucking information that most detractors have stored in some way, shape, or form that no one gives a fuck about, except for them and other people who don't give a fuck about useless fucking information. But this right here is a direct contradiction. Sorry, it's funny to say that. But this is like a direct contradiction to that. And this is what I've tried to always tell you. Even when DSP's telling the truth, he's lying. You can't trust anything that he says. Like I said, rule number 1, DSP's lying about everything. Rule number 2, DSP will give DSP enough rope to hang himself. Always. Rule number 3, eventually he'll end up telling on himself because he's stupid. And you can go ahead and equate that to any lolcow. Because truth be told, rule number 1 and number 3 is applied to Amberlynn Reed and well, actually, yeah, rule number 1 and 3, because the give him enough rope and hang himself is actually my rule. But you can apply that to any lolcow too. But rule number 1 and rule number 3 is applied to like people like Foodie Beauty and Amberlynn Reed, to be honest with you. But Foodie is far more pronounced. She lies about everything. Assume that everything she says is a lie until you could prove it or she could prove it. Rule number 2, she'll always tell on herself. Just give her enough time and she'll always tell on herself. Because she's stupid. And that she loves to talk. It is what it is. Amber falls into that exact same category. That's why that's why those SA claims of hers keep fucking changing up, and the people who are accused of doing SA on her ass keeps changing up. You can ask Alt about that. Well, ask Sav. And if Alt's around, you can ask Alt. Because I'm sure Alt's learning about that stuff. But, for those who've been around, you already know that shit. And Alt probably hasn't even scratched the surface of the nonsense he's about to walk through. I kind of feel bad for him because Alt has had it easy with this DSP shit for a while. You start getting in the girl world, shit started to get scary. But big ups to Alt on that though, and whatnot, and the rest of them. Like I said, it'll be an interesting experience. You'd be surprised what you can learn with another lolcow that you can apply to your own lolcow of choice, if you will. So big ups to Alt, and that being said.
And I already made up the cost of the game investment. How crazy was that? It was a different time, man. It really was. It was wild. So...
But keep in mind also, and I need to point this out before one of y'all who are also a purveyor of useless DSP information decides to come and get me on this, because I already feel the tingling and whatnot about that. Hey Golden, didn't you say that fucking Machinima was overpaying DSP, so that's why all the money that he was making was as inflated as it was? Yeah, absolutely, without a doubt. So you have to keep that in mind as well. He was being overpaid. At least the first 3 or 4 years he was on Machinima, he was being overpaid, massively fucking overpaid, massively. Holy shit! And then that's why they had to keep readjusting his contract. And then after a while, holy shit! I can't wait to do that video. After a while of readjusting after adjusting his contract each and every year, because they never gave him a long-term deal. They gave him yearly deals. He didn't get a 3-year deal or a 5-year deal, sorry, like some of those Call of Duty heads did back in those days or whatever, which that should tell you something. But they started offering him free games as compensation for them basically docking his pay. Here's the crazy part. Those same games that they offered him as compensation was always available to him, and his dumbass didn't know it because his dumbass didn't ask for it. He didn't actually sit there and look at all of the emails that were sent to him and being like, which were linked to surveys. He even admitted this, that there were surveys or whatever that he could fill out for new games he might be interested in. And if it was made available, they'd be able to send them out to him. Because there was Call of Duty heads that were getting free copies of Call of Duty all the fucking time. Matter of fact, it was only some years ago that Blame Truth knew though. If Blame Truth didn't come out and say it, I'm pretty sure he did. He already knew. But it was White Boy 7th Street and 8 Thoughts. I think he goes by King of Call of Duty now. They came out and spoke about how early Call of Duty guys content creators. It's before streaming became prominent. Were getting paid, you know what I'm saying, like 15, like getting paid like five figures to go out to these events or to play games, their Activision Call of Duty games early and shit like that. It's a absolutely fascinating story if you want to look it up. It's on YouTube, you can find it. And if I remember correctly, White Boy actually should still have that video up, if not it's been mirrored, that he breaks down like all that shit. And then he even, if I remember correctly, he even names names in that of some of the people who actually were offered it to and so on and so forth before he got himself blacklisted. That's a whole nother story in itself. So, but here's the point. The point is that the very, compensation that Machinima offered him, it was always made available. From day one that he got onto Machinima, getting a free copy of certain games, only benefits Machinima to have as many people on their platform to be playing them. As a managed partner, that was already cooked into his deal. That was already cooked into his deal, and his dumbass didn't know it. So they passed off something to him that was already a right. It was already a privilege, and they repackaged it to his ass as another privilege. And he fell for it hook, line, and sinker because he's stupid. And he really thought he was somebody. That shit is crazy. That shit is crazy. So now, ladies and gentlemen, when you go back and you look at, what was that? What game was that? That would have been Fallout 4, right? Because it wouldn't have been New Vegas. I'm pretty sure it was Fallout 4. Actually, give me a second. I'll take a quick look. Okay, I'm back. I was right about the Fallout 4 thing, but I ended up getting sidetracked, and I need to really get a browser extension for OBS here, and I can take you on some of these missions with me. But and then I can just have somebody edit it down after the fact. Anyway, interestingly enough, so Machinima did send him an early copy of Fallout 4, send him a little certificate and all that bullshit. Yeah. Here's the thing. Did you guys know, because I didn't know, that there was actually a variation or an edition that Machinima was also giving out to a few people. The Fallout 4 edition with the Pip-Boy joint, I guess you could kind of like the little device. No, well, not little, it's a fucking bulky ass thing, but it was like a device. They had like a special edition for that some people from Machinima got. He didn't get that. That's crazy. There's videos out there. I went across at least 10 of them from different creators who actually got that. So he wasn't even getting the really cool collectible or luxury versions of some of these packages or these editions of games or whatever, or collector editions or whatever. He wasn't even getting that from Machinima. They sent his ass a game, and he really thought he was hot shit. And there was people who were getting far more than that. It's like the equivalent of, let's say, for example, let's say we're still with Machinima. Machinima sends me an Xbox and a PS3, let's say, and whatever. Then you find out like James the Lesser, who's also on Machinima, right? Hypothetically, ends up getting like the special edition joint with the skins, the extra controllers. He gets the game and all that shit. And I'm sitting here hyping up what I have because I am appreciative of it or I'm happy about it. But there were some people who were getting more. So there was a hierarchy even amongst managed partners or something, or there was certainly a level of likability or whatnot, or profitability by giving certain people stuff over others. But some of those channels aren't even as big as DSPs at that time. Yikes, that's a worm. That might be a nice little fucking wormhole to go down one day and shit. Say a wormhole because DSP is a worm. I don't want to call it a rabbit hole and whatnot. But, pigs dig holes too, so maybe there's that. Anyway. That might be something interesting to look at. But yet again, going back to my point of DSP getting sold short and just not knowing any better. But he's the guy with the business degree, though. You know what I'm saying? That business degree really paid off. That ACE certification was really helping him out there, wasn't it? Let me stop. Let's continue.
So Nightbot did a $2 super chat. This is an imposter Nightbot on YouTube. And it says, enjoy the stream, support if you can, or I unplug. You can unplug Nightbot. You don't have the ability to unplug Jack Diddley. But thanks for $2, Nightbot impersonator. Okay.
Why would you give that life? Anyway, let me stop. Why would you give that life?
Let's see. Zylvania says, from what I've seen, the used games are now becoming a main revenue stream for GameStop. They have been a main revenue stream for GameStop for about 10 years. Like, that's why they were heavily pushing trade in, get extra value, trade in.
Yeah, the resale market was crazy. I wouldn't say so much that now. You know what I'm saying? You can't get the value of what you have doing it that way anymore. You're better off, dude. Like going ahead, I'm not saying to do this, but like, you know what I'm saying? Now that you have Best Buy, you have Amazon instead of third, dude, you can literally play those games and send those bitches right back and then bloop, you're done. And then people forget too, like, there's a guy who I still watch actually, Chase Money. And when for those of you who know, you know, big as to Chase. Chase Money used to, I think he was doing GameFly for a while. I don't think he was promoting it, but he was actually doing it for his playthroughs and whatnot. And that was a cheaper alternative as well. But I wouldn't say it was a profitable thing for GameStop now, because you can go into a GameStop and get like 4 or 5 used games, now that I think about it, for like $20. Like, I don't know if there's really a whole lot of profit in that and whatnot. And that, and most of them are games you don't even want anyway. But, you know, tomato.
But now you get like no value at all for trading in, so there's like no incentive to do so. Your future stepdad says, do you remember when there was actual hype around midnight releases at GameStop? Of course.
But then again, I don't pay full price for a game just to trade in later, though. That's not something that I do. You know what I'm saying? Which is why it's kind of easy to go ahead and just get everything digital, especially for those of you who know, you know, that nonsense that happened with Modern Warfare 3 DLC. Now, I didn't have to worry about that because someone actually gave me a copy of it digitally anyway. But for when they removed a bunch of games from the Call of Duty headquarters and allowed them to be freestanding games on, you know, Xbox or PlayStation, respectfully, if you had, at least for PS4 and 5 owners, if you had a hard copy of Modern Warfare 3 DLC, you couldn't actually get into your game now that the launcher didn't support it. Like, literally, the disc that you had was empty. It just had like an identifier on it that sent a message to, if I remember correctly, sent a message to the app or to the Call of Duty headquarters app. That's basically what it is. And then that approved you to go ahead and be able to play the game. That sucks. That really fucking sucks, because if that's how it's going to be for future Call of Duty games or whatnot, then you're virtually screwed. And you're virtually screwed by the nature of Activision not wanting you to really be able to play your old games anymore. Games that you already bought and paid for, unless you bought it digitally. Then they can sit around there and fuck with your game any type of way, shape, or form that they feel or that they see fit to make the game unplayable digitally, to make you also give up on it. Now, we're not there yet, but that's where the cheating problem comes into play. You don't have that many people cheating on your game and you not knowing. They've just figured out a way to use it to their benefit. You want as many, if you're Activision, you want as many people on the current Call of Duty game and staying on the current Call of Duty game as possible. Well, if that game is shit and people can go back and play the old ones, well, you need a deterrent. Not necessarily a barrier, but you need a deterrent. Hackers, some anyway, seem to work out pretty good. Anyway, that's a whole other conversation for another day. But it's like that. Like, you know what I'm saying? Buying physical copies of games these days, especially if you just load it into your console and then you still need to download some shit or whatever, is probably one of the greatest bamboozles that we've ever fallen for. And we can't go back, unfortunately. I mean, we could, but we really can't, because most consoles are trying to go to diskless drives at this point. I don't know. That's a whole other conversation. But it's getting into some fuckboy shit, and Activision is leading the charge on that. And then another thing too, people want to shit on Nintendo for making their games $80. People forget that 2K was gonna lead that charge no matter what. Not necessarily with Grand Theft Auto, but with the not 2K, EA. They were gonna lead the charge with fucking the 2K games like that. So if it wasn't Nintendo, it was gonna end up being 2K. Anyway, I just thought I'd throw it up.
You know, anytime there was a Call of Duty, line out the door, everyone wanted to get that game physically so they could play it all night on release day, or any big FPS for that matter.
Unless you knew somebody who actually worked at that GameStop or someone else that could hook you up with the copy early, which was a thing. Now, because most people forget, when the day that Call of Duty dropped, that earlier that day, or well, that night release, I should say, because it was always like a midnight release. But if you were able to get it at like earlier that day, multiplayer was already live and popping. If anything, there were stress tests. Excuse me. Activision used to have the studios of choice do a stress test like the night before because there was always someone getting the game early. You know, like if you went to the mom and pop shops and whatnot, you could easily buy Call of Duty. Like let me give you an example. Uh, my older siblings had friends who were getting copies of Black Ops 2, like that dropped in November, early November of 2012. They had it like a day or two before. They couldn't do anything in the multiplayer, right? For the first like, I want to tell you the first like day or two, right? But they were able to go through campaign in the 7th. But like, if I remember correctly, multiplayer was unlocked the day before midnight release, so they were already on there. Activision didn't try to stop them; they used them as a stress test. So when everybody else got their copies, the masses, if you will, they had a good idea of how things would fluctuate. Matter of fact, I'm pretty confident David Vonderhaar spoke about that in an interview. Um, can't remember if it was on video or if it was like in an article or something where he spoke about that stuff. So anyway, the point being is that there was always, if there's a will, there's a way, and there was always people getting copies of Call of Duty early. I mean, it's like that now. So not much has really changed, to be honest with you. Just the hype of getting people in the stores to buy it is pretty much gone.
New Halo coming out, a Battlefield game, right? Assassin's Creed, or a new Mass Effect, or GTA, you know, any of the big high-profile releases, you'd always have a line. People would be there for the midnight release, all hyped and excited. And a lot of the times, those games, you'd get promotional extras for being there and pre-ordering and picking it up on release day. A poster, a little guidebook, a collectible thing would come with it for free. Now,
I mean, it's still like that now. Well, depending on the game, of course. But some of that stuff is available now. You know what I'm saying? Maybe not on Amazon, I don't think. But GameStop and Best Buy, depending on what it is. You know what I'm saying?
now, why would you ever go to GameStop to get a game on release day? It's on your PC, it's on your console digitally instantly anyway. What did you go to the store for?
Some people still have the nostalgia for having the hard copy, and even though it sadly it's worthless, or it's slowly but surely becoming worthless. Well, sentiment to value, Phil. But don't get me wrong, I understand where he's coming from, like how he's trying to be pragmatic. I get that, but you know, there's still people who like the physical copy. I'm one of them.
It's such a different thing. Yes, release day unboxing. Exactly, Spawn Killer. He says, damn, release day unboxing was what, 15, 16 years ago? When was the last one I did? You want to find out? I'm curious. Hold on. I'm legit curious. Let's do this so that I don't screw up the game.
I think didn't he stop doing midnight releases though the moment he left Connecticut? I feel like maybe he did a few of them while he was in Washington, because I feel like when he first moved in, he was hyped up about all the fast food places around them, because of course he would be. And I'm pretty sure he said that there was a GameStop or two around the way. And if you actually look at where DSP is at on a map, and you see where everything is around him, everything is relatively close. It's closer than even he's willing to give you credit to, and whatnot. So why would he lie about that? It's like people don't know how to use Google Maps. You know what I mean? Wild shit.
Hold on. Whoa, did you see that? I alt-tabbed and it went crazy. Hold on. So, I don't know if I did them on DSP Gaming or DSP, the vlogging channel. I think I did them on DSP Gaming.
He's actually, just for clarification, because as you guys know, I already looked. He has them on both. He has some on DSP Gaming, and he has some of them on King of Hate Vlogs, which is now DSP Reacts.
So here is release day unboxing. Here we go. I wish I could just see the whole playlist. I searched for the playlist and it didn't give it to me. Yeah, it's not giving me the playlist, bizarrely. It's giving me individual videos, and I don't know why.
That's another thing too, which is I find incredibly ironic. I didn't know it was going to be in this, but I'm glad it was. All those years that he tried to direct people, go to the playlist, go to the playlist, do this, do that. If you can't search for DSP Gaming, search for my playlist of a particular game and I'll pop up, this, that, and the third. None of that means anything anymore. Even if you try to search on his own channel, it still comes up a bit discombobulated, which is kind of hilarious. It's really, really funny. And because he has to make a playlist for everything, and he's not willing to go and update any of the descriptions or anything like that, or even the titles of the playlist themselves, everything just gets swamped out.
It won't give you the playlist.
Womp womp.
So here's a perfect example. Conduit 2, Mortal Kombat, so this was probably the reboot, Mortal Kombat 9, Portal 2, and SOCOM 4. 4 games, release day unboxing.
Is that music on his end? The fuck?
50,000 views. So this video, no lie, made me between $150 to $200. So this probably paid for most of the games before I even uploaded a gameplay video of it. Yeah, pretty crazy, huh?
I suppose.
But the thing is, I don't remember when I ended it, and this, for some reason, I can't bring up the playlist. It's only bringing up individual videos. Here's one from the end of 2012. It looks like 2012, because in 2013 is probably when I started doing more digital stuff. Oh, is this it? Here it is. No, this isn't it. This isn't... Is this my playlist? I don't know if this is my playlist.
He can't even identify his own playlist. That's so crazy. Oh my god. That's so nuts.
I guess it is.
Some of his shit's gonna turn into lost media even before he realizes it's become lost media. And it's not even because it's lost, it's just been decategorized, to be honest. But that's really wild. Holy shit.
Maybe I did start...
I wonder how much server space DSP actually takes up. Like, if you really, really think about it. Because what does he have? Something close to 80 or 90,000 videos over multiple channels. You know what I'm saying? We're not just talking about the 3 main channels. We're talking about all the other dead channels he's got floating around out there. So, you know, we got potentially 90,000 videos that this ass clown has. Wild, son. And I'm not even, and you don't even, and sorry, I'm not even talking about detractor, troll, hater, or critic content either. I'm not even getting into that yet. We're just talking about his own slot. That must be a wild amount of server space, boy. He's very lucky that YouTube still doesn't charge, you know, content creators some type of like fee. You know, even if it's only a couple of dollars a year or whatever the fuck just to host. He's very, very fortunate. Even though he'd make a major stink of it if that's what they did.
Doing them over on the DSP Reacts channel. Xbox One Day 1 Edition unboxing. Look at that. Well, hold on one second. What is... Aha! So I did move them from DSP Gaming to my vlogging channel in 2013. That makes sense. Here we go. So the last one I did was actually May 20th, 2014. Wolfenstein, The New Order, and Drakengard 3. This was the last release day unboxing. After that, I stopped buying the physical editions of games. I started going all digital. But look, it was pretty consistent before then. It really was. As you can see, by this point already, views had dropped off. Only 10,000. Why? Because there was nothing in the boxes. Like, watch.
So wait, it's not, so it wasn't a detractor, troll, hater, or critic issue? It was because there was nothing in the boxes. Huh. So if that's the case, ladies and gentlemen, couldn't one make the argument that if you go back through DSP's catalog and you see where he's had his dips in particular, it has really nothing to do with his detractor, trolls, haters, and critics? And it's either him, more than likely, it falls on himself and or some type of circumstance that he was in. One could make that argument, I would think. Interesting.
Here's the box. Look, that's the box. Seriously. There's no instruction manual at all. All it is the controls of the game. There's nothing in the box at all. Wow, some release day unboxing, huh? There was an ad for Evil Within in there. I'm trying to see what was in Drakengard 3, but apparently I'm not, like, picking it up for some reason. What was in Drakengard 3? Anything? No, look. Here's why release day unboxing ended in 2014. Here's Drakengard 3. No instructions, no pack-in, not even art, nothing. White. And the game disc. Wow. Gee, I wonder why I stopped doing release day unboxing, right? Sheesh. Well, there's your answer, everyone. Since people were interested, that's where it went. Basically went into the oblivion because there was nothing to do. It's completely blank. Wow. But anyway, I mean, do I miss doing stuff like that? Yeah, that was fun. It was fun to go in the morning, get all the games, unbox them. I had this big hype feeling behind it when that happened. Really, it did. Like a big feeling.
Keep in mind, he was probably doing a DSP Tries It in the morning too. He was probably running off somewhere to grab breakfast. So we're doing a DSP Tries It, then we're doing an unboxing video, then he's doing playthroughs. Wow.
Of hype and excitement that we're getting a new game and we're getting to see what's in it. People get excited for the playthrough that was coming out later that day. And then it all kind of went away. It really did. It all just disappeared as games changed and everything went all digital and everything. Just, it fizzled into nothing. And there's nothing you can really do about that. Times change. I mean, Ask the King. At one point, Ask the King was one of my most popular shows because I didn't do anything like this. What we're doing right now, I never did. Instead, it was always, I'm just doing a playthrough. I'm hyper-focused on the game. We got to beat it, guys. We got to get through and get to the next game. I didn't talk to the audience. I didn't answer questions. I didn't hang out. Instead, it was, let's just play a game.
But keep in mind, he was streaming on YouTube at that time, and he was looking at the chat and whatnot. He chose not to respond to them. He chose to go out of his way and ignore them unless he could use them for something. That's still a bit different. When you think about it. That's why when he talks about his early days of streaming, it doesn't really make a whole lot of sense. It makes it sound like he was barred from doing it, or people didn't understand how to stream at that time. No, you were just a piece of shit. You know what I'm saying? You were streaming to a live audience, and you chose not to interact with them unless it was to somehow feed your ego or get you through a game, basically.
And because of that, I did a separate series called Ask the King, where all I did was answer your questions. At first, it was based off of just people like posting on my forums. Then I started taking Twitter questions, Facebook questions, all kinds of stuff from different places. But after a while,
and then we started incorporating I'm pretty sure there was the paid tier. I think it was like $20. I think that was through Patreon, if I'm pretty sure. And for $20, he'd answer all of your questions, and obviously the question would be, or the answer would be bloated, so it makes it seem like you got your whole, you ended up getting your value for that. That was a thing. That was a thing. And then you get into the, what else was he doing on Patreon? He had like a $50 tier where he would do like a personal video. All that shit ended up getting leaked. So there's a bunch of channels out there that you can find that has that archive. Those are interesting. Like the Review Tech USA one is pretty good. He talks about his Street Fighter story, or his Evo story in one of those things. Which he's super bitter in both of those cases, by the way. Pretty sure I've gone over those, but I'd like to actually go over it again with a fresh pair of eyes now that I think about it. Because it's been some years. That might be fun. Might be a nice side mission.
While after I became an interactive streamer, and now I do these interactive streams, what do you need to Ask the King for? We can just talk now, right? So there you have it. It became a moot point. There was no reason to ever do it ever again.
And that right there, I feel, this is just a personal gripe. That whole thing about there's never a point of doing it, never doing it ever again. Like him talking in absolutes like that is bullshit, because he said the same thing about DSP Tries It. He said the same thing about bringing Cat back onto his content. He said the same thing about doing collaborations and stuff with people. Like, him talking with that type of finalization or finality, if you will, is bullshit. But that's how his frame of mind goes. But then he got a nerve to get mad that he can't get people to talk to him or do what he wants. LTG, Wings of Redemption, Boogie, and well, Max and Justin theoretically, and you can just kind of go down the list. You know what I'm saying? Like, and he does, and it's not so much what you say at times, but it's also how you say it and how you choose the move. You know what I'm saying? So it's those type of problems and issues. He always runs back to anything and everything he's ever done. He'll run back to it if the demand is there and he has no other choice. So then you can never say never about anything, because we've all been up and we've all been down. He's been down a very, 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 very long time. So he shouldn't speak. He shouldn't talk like that. He really shouldn't.
Okay. Hold on one second here. Ladies and gentlemen, I just received, this is insane, a $133 tip. $133 from Jersey Clyde. He says, hey, DSP, I have to admit, I originally found out about you through Detractors. After looking on your streams for a while, I come to the opinion you're not as bad as they make you out to be. That is what most logical people say. I'm not saying that I don't have my moments. I do. I have moments of uncontrollable rage and stupidity. But in general, my streams are chill and fun. We have a great interactive time together. Everyone gets something good out of it, right? And
all it takes is one bad moment, though, to turn people off from you, though. That's the thing. And here's the thing. Even in a situation like this, he still don't take responsibility for it. He's like, yeah, I have my moments, but overall, we have a great time, so it is what it is. Oh, okay, so yeah, so Phil loves his wife, but he may backhand her every once in a while. Actually, sorry, let's go ahead and move to somebody who's more appropriate for that analogy. Wings of Redemption loves Kelly. He really don't. He's just using her. But whatever. Let's say he really does. Wings of Redemption loves Kelly. He just beats her every once in a while, though, because he's mad. Because he's upset. He has anger issues, this, that, and third. But the rest of the time, though, we're good. Or they're good, I should say. So, you can't call him a bad husband. It's like that. It's literally like that. And the funny thing is, as it pertains to some of these lolcows, at least the ones that are in relationships, as rare as that is, or even rarer than that are actually married, it's funny how you can see the abuse. You really can. You see it with Wings, and you see it with DSP. Wings has been physically abusive to Kelly, but he's also been he's been emotionally as well as verbally abusive. And DSP has at least been verbally and emotionally abusive to Kat. That's so fucking crazy. And that, and the fact that they both married women with K's in their names. That's an interesting coincidence now that I think about it. But it's probably not if I went and looked at the statistics. I'm pretty sure it's not as minute as I think it is. But here's the point. It's funny how both of these cats have been abusive to their spouses, their significant others, whatever the fuck buzzwords they want to put on that shit. And you can see what the consequences of these actions are. That's something that should be explored further, to be honest with you. That might open up a very interesting conversation. And then, unlike in Cobra's case, where he was the actual abused, he was the abused one in that one with fucking with Nell, or Naked and Laughing. Wild shit, bro. Wild fucking shit.
People tell me I don't even understand what people are talking about. They seem to emphasize one tiny moment that happened during your stream, and then they act like that was the entirety of your stream, when it most definitely wasn't.
Still not taking responsibility, though.
And it sucks that I'm misrepresented as much as I am, but that's just something that I've become used to over the years, because that's all they do. Keep in mind, the reason they're doing it is...
So it's not about apologizing to the audience. It's because these detractors keep hyper-focusing on it. It makes me look bad. So what the fuck do I need to apologize for? Because it's their fault. This is what Review Tech USA ended up getting hit with back in the day, which is one of the staples on why DSP don't like Review Tech. This goes back to the Pokemon Sun and Moon situation, and so on and so forth. If you guys know, you know. So keep in mind, this same type of thought process that DSP is displaying right now is exactly what caused his beef with him and Review Tech back in the day. Or at least one of the reasons. There's another one too that's linked to Leanna, but I want to let me do some more research and flush that out, and then I'll present that to you one day. Then I'll present it to you. It's far more funny than I thought it would be.
For profit. It's literally the only reason. If they told the truth about me, then, you know, people wouldn't care about their garbage bunk content, always trying to say that I'm like the devil or whatever. So
If they told the truth about you, it wouldn't make you. No one would care about their content. Huh? But you just admitted that you have a bunch of moments, though. You have bad moments and shit. So sooner than later, if it's not one person, someone else is going to want to speak on that. They're going to ISO that situation. They're going to want to speak on it. Like his own narrative don't even make any sense. Instead of him changing, everybody around him needs to change. Oh, whatever. A lol cow must be a lol cow.
it does suck, but what can you do? But thank you. $133 from Jersey Clyde, an insanely huge contribution. Let me get you up on the leaderboard here.
I'm not sure if I'm going to do it this year or not, but I have an idea for. I want to go back. I've never got a chance to do any of these. To be honest with you, I'm going to go over there to. I want to go over there to Super Crazy's channel, and I want to go over his To Catch a Pay Pig series because it was always a great series. I've watched all of them, but I'd like to actually go over them now and in the current day and age, or at least in the next, maybe the next year or so, and see what's what, because I will tell you. Super Crazy, for whatever you think of him now, he did a fantastic job on this series, and he pointed out a lot of shit that ended up coming into fruition later. And it must have been good because Only Iced Coffee used that series as his blueprint to go ahead and X some of those guys out. So you know what I mean? It just to put it out there. In any case, big ups to Rawphil, and let's go ahead and close up shop with final thoughts, and I will let y'all go. Let's see here. So, all right, and yet again, big ups to Rawphil and big ups to Diggs. As it pertains to big ups to Chio. So as it pertains to the situation with the whole GameStop and DSP's business model revolving around his unboxing videos and the money he made and how he basically got played while he was on Machinima. DSP literally was just he's kind of a victim of his time. Realistically, most people tell you DSP was only prosperous because of the time and place that he was in, right? The reality is, and that's true, by the way, but the reality is he never moved past that. He's still, if you look at what he does and how he conducts himself and how he thinks of himself, he's still back in his glory days. Yeah, he has to admit that viewership is lower. There's less people showing up to his streams. There's even fewer people giving him money. But in his head, he's still only a step or two from being back to where he was. And the reality is, it was all inflated. It was all bloat, to be honest with you. Because if you take away the overpayment from Machinima, for all we know, Machinima may have been even inflating his numbers just to be honest. We don't know what kind of gimmicky bullshit that was going on back at the time. DSP was definitely playing the YouTube system. He was definitely manipulating the YouTube system for sure. But who knows what Machinima did? If that entire era was redone completely on the straight and narrow, would DSP be where he's at now? On top of that, as it pertains to the nickel and diming every little thing that he did back in those days, he never had any content. DSP worked with what he had, and he didn't have anything really creative. He just did what other people did. He just did it to, he kind of did it to an extreme at times. He literally is the progenitor of slop content, and in a lot of ways, ladies and gentlemen, non-content. I think as time will go on, maybe more people will agree with me on that, but I honestly think he's going to be looked at as the progenitor of it. Yeah, no, don't get me wrong. There's a lot of people who put out a lot of wild ass shit on YouTube. Filming the sidewalk each and every day, stuff like that. Medicare talks about that shit, or used to anyway. He used to talk about that shit a lot. But DSP, it may very well need to get his credit where credit's due, as it pertains to gaming slop content and non-tent. To be honest, That's really what that is. That's really what he produced, to be honest with you. And because the pool, if you will, was so small at that time, it looked like it was more than what it was. But when quality started to overtake quality, sorry, let's reword that. When quality started to overtake quantity, he was done because he had nothing else to bring to the table. Because he had no skills, he has no talents. Review Tech USA is another example of that. He's a product, and in a lot of ways, he's a victim of his time. And he's never moved past it. And everything he does is still approached with the same half-ass shit he did back in the day. And, you know what I'm saying? He's a victim of it, as well as his own poor behavior and poor decision making. Oh boy, I have some Review Tech USA stuff coming down the line. But in his poor decision making. So there's that too. Keem is like that. Keem falls into that category as well. Now that I think about a lot of these guys too. Now that I really, really think about it. Maybe I'll do just a thought on that later. On how some of these earlier content creators, at least the ones I'm gonna pick out, are really a victim of their time. That doesn't mean that you need to give them sympathy. It just means they're a victim of their time. And whatnot. And it's their fault that they couldn't grow out of it. In any case, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for listening in. I very much appreciate it. And I'll catch you guys for the next one of these, whenever that may be. Hopefully sooner than later. Ladies and gentlemen, this has been the Snort Report. This has been DSP News. Always late, never breaking, unreliable coverage that you can't count on. Oh yes, a GTG Network and Productions. For the Snort Report, for Hard Snorts Gin and Tonic, for Tim Snortons and SnortBucks Coffee Company, the best beverage company, I've been your host / anchor GTG, and I'm signing off. Take care of yourselves, people. Later.